at the end of government orders. Now, the Honourable
Mr. Speaker, could you make that the 20th? I'd be deeply grateful.
So, we caught that. Thank you. It's all well and good. I made the same mistakes myself earlier today. We're going to statements by members. Déclaration de député. The Honourable Member for Fleetwood, Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, this summer my community lost a champion with the untimely passing of Rick Hart on July 2nd. Now, Fleetwood's the geographic heart of my riding, and Rick was truly the heart of Fleetwood. As the Neighbourhood Association President, Rick worked tirelessly to preserve our past with parks and memorials. As the catalyst for our present, he helped bring about our marvelous sports and leisure facility, our library, and our community centre. As a visionary for Fleetwood's vibrant future, he worked with us, our city, and this government as we move forward with Surrey's rapid transit expansion. He did a lot, and he was just getting started. Rick's wife, Joy, said his favorite quote was, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." It was timely that just last May, Rick was honoured as Surrey's Good Citizen of the Year. Please join me to salute Mr. Fleetwood, Rick Hart.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, it's great to be back. However, I wish I was back with better news. In Alberta, our economy has been hit hard. This July, in my riding, we saw the highest unemployment rate since September 1995. However, Mr. Speaker, Alberta can and will bounce back because we are a strong and resilient province. But what we don't need is a job-killing Liberal carbon tax. What we don't need are empty words from Cabinet who's more concerned about photo ops than helping the West. And what we don't need is a Prime Minister telling us we should be thankful. One thing is certain, Mr. Speaker, this government won't be able to ignore us on this side of the House. We will be the voice for struggling Albertans, and we will be relentless until we have a government who cares and has a plan for Alberta's economy.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, this past June 28th, Mississauga East was shaken by a massive house explosion that affected many residents of my community. I stand here today to support the unwavering resilience of the residents of Hickory Drive, Mississauga, and the surrounding area. Mr. Speaker, as they still deal with the onerous hardships cast on their neighbourhood, let me acknowledge the work of Mayor Bonnie Crombie, City Councillors, first responders, the fire officials, and their steadfast efforts to assist this neighbourhood. To date, in an area formerly comprised of long-time residents and thriving vegetable gardens, many homes have been designated as unlivable. Many families are displaced, living with the uncertainty of when they can return home. It was my honour this past Saturday to help host a community barbecue at the Burnham Thorpe Community Centre to assist those affected by this unfortunate event. Let us give Hickory residents our heartfelt support as they await return to their homes. Thank you.
Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
In 2005, the BC Liberals promised British Columbians that all at-risk schools would be seismically upgraded by 2020. Yet today, many BC schools remain at high risk of significant structural failure in the event of even a moderate earthquake. This broken promise means that every day, thousands of children and staff lives are in jeopardy. This risk is compounded because many schools are designated community meeting spots, meaning we are asking citizens to rush to unsafe buildings in case of a natural disaster. Because of the shortage of funds for seismic upgrading, school boards across BC are being forced to close schools. 11 are slated for closure in Vancouver alone, including Carleton, Graham Bruce, and Gladstone Secondary, quality schools whose closing will displace thousands of students. The federal government is responsible for public safety. The Prime Minister has retained the portfolio of youth. Today, I call on the Prime Minister to fulfill these responsibilities and immediately make federal funds available to seismically upgrade BC schools so that every child can attend a neighbourhood school.
The Honourable Member for Northwest Territories.
Mr. Speaker, on September 1st, the community of Delaney, on the shores of Great Bear Lake in my riding, became the first community-based Aboriginal public government. This agreement was 20 years in the making and will mean that the community can enact laws governing areas from municipal services to health and education. People of this close-knit community will have more control over decisions that affect our lives. I was honored to attend their celebrations earlier this month, both as the Member of Parliament and on behalf of the Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs. I would like to congratulate the people of Delaney on this historic agreement and wish the Equity Day, Raymond Tucho, and other elected leaders of the new Delaney Equity government the best of luck, and with hard work ahead in implementing the Delaney final self-government agreement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This Wednesday, this House will vote on whether members of Parliament should protect Canadian taxpayers. We will vote on whether to study the means of creating a legally enforceable duty of care from the Canada Revenue Agency to taxpayers. We will vote on whether the Canada Revenue Agency is ultimately accountable to the public or vice versa, on whether to place the interests of law-abiding taxpayers ahead of a powerful government agency, and on whether we, as elected members of Parliament, should demonstrate leadership in this field or merely sit back and wait for the courts. We will vote on motion M43 this Wednesday. I encourage my honourable colleagues to get ahead of a judicial trend, recognize the need to study this area of accountability and taxpayer protection, and to take up their responsibility as legislators representing Canadians. I encourage them to join me in voting yes to motion M43 on Wednesday.
The honourable member for Pierrefonds-Dollard.
Speaker, last Saturday in my riding of Pierrefonds-Dollard, I took part in the walk for polycystic kidney disease, PKD. It was organized by Ms. Louisa Mignacci Di Leo, the Montreal chapter coordinator of the PKD Foundation of Canada. Polycystic kidney disease is a genetic disorder that causes multiple cysts to form on the kidneys, which in turn may cause a variety of serious complications, ranging from high blood pressure up to kidney failure.
PKD is a hereditary disease. In fact, it's one of the most common, and it's potentially deadly. It affects thousands of Canadians. About 5% of those who require dialysis or kidney transplants are affected by this disease. Since its creation in 1993, the PKD Foundation of Canada has grown, and today, thanks to their hard work, treatments are finally within reach. Thank you. The honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, this summer I toured Quebec to meet with farmers from every region. I met with inspiring people, people who work very hard. These people are the artisans who create the food that we've shared together this summer around the table in family. Unfortunately, the government is leaving these farmers behind. The diafiltered milk file shows that the federal government isn't interested in helping farmers and regions. Months have gone by, producers are losing millions of dollars because they have been abandoned. People are unhappy. Our farmers are losing workers, they're losing their homes. It's extremely worrying. So I'd like to take this opportunity, this first time speaking in the House this fall, to tell all those that I met this summer, don't give up. The Bloc Québécois will not give up on you. We'll take care of you, we'll be vigilant, and this government will be held accountable. Thank you.
The honourable member for St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, fairness, respect, self-discipline, inspiration, the pursuit of excellence. These qualities, the hallmarks of the Paralympic movement, shone brightly in all of Canada's athletes at the 2016 Rio Paralympic Games. We are thrilled by Canada's team, and I am honoured by this opportunity to congratulate equestrian Robin Andrews, wheelchair basketball team member Liam McKinney, both from St. John's, and Katarina Roxon from Kippens on the west coast of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Now that she has just won her first gold medal in the 100-meter breaststroke, we expect that her name will be plastered all over the province, as it has already been in the imaginations of a new generation of young athletes.
To all of our Paralympians, your excellence and determination inspires all of us.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Mr. Speaker, there is nowhere else in Canada that has been devastated as hard by the energy downturn as Alberta and my riding of Fort McMurray, Cold Lake. We have seen our population decline in record numbers, even greater than the Liberal National Energy Program in the 1980s. Hotels that were once busting at the seams are now empty. But it's just not Fort McMurray. All the smaller towns in my riding are reeling. They've also seen their business sales decline as high as 70%. Mr. Speaker, a record number of families have left. They have lost faith in the Liberal government's commitment to get pipelines built. With an oil tanker ban on the West Coast, more environmental regulations, and the undefinable term of social license, the prospects of employment in the oil sector are at historical lows. It's time for the Liberal government to stop playing political games and commit to building pipelines and getting Canadians back to work.
The honourable member for Orleans.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, it's with a heavy heart that I rise today to commemorate the memory of our colleague, our friend, the honourable member for Ottawa-Vanier, Mauriel Bélanger. Whatever our party, in August, all in this House lost a friend, a proud Canadian. Mauriel was a champion of many causes. He carried the flag of La Francophonie with great pride, and he defended his citizens. He worked very hard. The memory of his accomplishments and his devotion will maintain for all of us an example to follow as parliamentarians, but also as a colleague, a friend in this House. May his memory be a source of energy. Thank you. The honourable member for Montarville.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the House of Commons, I rise to extend all of our heartfelt sympathies to the victims of explosion in New York on Saturday, as well as to the victims of the small stabbings in Minnesota. We wish them all speedy recoveries. These incidents, as well as the two in New Jersey, are concerning for all of us. I want to commend the tremendous work done by first responders who are always willing to put themselves in danger at times like these. It is a testament to their good efforts that no lives were lost in these terrible events.
While the investigation continues, I want to reassure Canadians that our law enforcement agencies continue to work closely with their American counterparts to assist them wherever possible in ensuring public safety. I would like to remind all Canadians that our agencies are standing guard 24 hours a day to protect our safety and security.
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, the recent Canadian Federation of Independent Business survey says over 1/3 of Canadian workers know that the Liberals' scheme to raise CPP premiums will reduce their ability to spend on essential household goods and services. 2/3 of small business owners say they will face pressure to freeze or cut workers' salaries. Only 18% of employed Canadians and 5% of small business owners think mandatory increases in CPP contributions will help Canadians save more for retirement. The Liberals refuse to listen to Canadian workers and Canadian businesses and stand up for their interests. Canadian small business owners and employees both prefer RRSPs and tax-free savings accounts and other personal investments to payroll tax increases like CPP premium tax hike. It's a shame that the Liberals are determined to mandate payroll tax increases, especially during the current difficult economic times.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, I spent this summer being amazed and astonished by how versatile, diverse, inclusive, and engaged the residents of Mississauga Erin Mills are. Over this summer, together we talked about important national issues like immigration, electoral reform, climate change, and opening our arms to refugees. Together, over 2,000 residents of our beautiful riding came together and celebrated our community at our first annual barbecue. The inclusiveness of Mississaugans is reflected yet again as they gather today to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'ah in Canada. Congratulations. Mr. Speaker, I stand up today to recognize the remarkable people of Mississauga Erin Mills, and with renewed energy, I vow to do my part to bring effective representation for all of them in this place. Thank you.
The honourable member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's emissions keep climbing year after year, and the Liberal government has yet to explain how its plan will break this trend and live up to our international obligations to combat climate change. Furthermore, Canadians learned yesterday that the Liberal government, which was granted power on promises of change, will be keeping the same Harper government's emission targets in place. Last month, I hosted a well-attended town hall on climate change in my riding. There was a passion and a hunger for real change on carbon emissions, and I'm not referring to a political slogan turned into a hashtag for social media. The Conservative record on climate change was abysmal, and seeing the Liberals go down that same path will never be acceptable to Canadians. Every MP in this House, especially those who serve as ministers, owes it to our next generation to effectively address this greatest challenge of the 21st century.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, Lakeland residents want to know why the Liberals don't seem to care about the 110,000 Canadians who have lost their jobs in the energy sector. Canada's largest private investor that contributes $17 billion annually to government programs and services across Canada. Canadians are struggling to pay their bills and to keep their homes. Pipelines are a private sector solution and create well-paying jobs.
Absolutely.
Pipelines ensure the future of Canada's world-leading responsible energy development. Canadians expect their Prime Minister to be a champion for the best interests of all of Canada. Oil and gas workers in Western provinces, assembly line workers in Ontario, manufacturers in Quebec, refinery workers in Atlantic Canada, and hard-working Canadians and small businesses in all the other sectors that depend on energy. Tomorrow, I'll present the most signed Canadian e-petition that calls for supporting new pipelines across Canada and the hundreds of thousands of employed and unemployed oil workers. I hope the Prime Minister will be listening.
The honourable member for Oakville North Burlington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At 18, he was a student. At 19, he was a cancer patient. At 21, he was a hero. Terry Fox. After losing his leg to osteogenic sarcoma, he embarked on a cross-country marathon of hope to raise money for cancer research. When Terry's cancer returned, Canadians took over, and today the Terry Fox Run is the largest single-day cancer fundraiser in the world. Before he died, Terry said, "Even if I don't finish, it's got to continue." Yesterday, Canadians and millions around the world participated in the 36th annual Terry Fox Run. As organizer of Oakville's Terry Fox Run, I joined 900 residents to honor Terry, who said, "Dreams are made possible if you try." Thanks to the Terry Fox Foundation, all MPs are Terry Foxers today, with a pin to show our support for his legacy. Thanks, Terry, for continuing to inspire us.
Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, common sense Canadians know that when you borrow money, you have to pay it back. Well, the Liberals have borrowed a lot of money, and guess who's paying it back? Canadians. They've raised taxes on families and on small businesses, and now they're forcing through a carbon tax hike and a CPP tax hike that will cost many Canadian families thousands of dollars a year. At the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, how much more money are they going to take from hardworking Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we are very concerned about the challenges facing middle-class Canadians. That's exactly the reason that we decided to lower taxes on 9 million middle-class Canadians. That's exactly the reason that we introduced the Canada Child Benefit, which will help 9 out of 10 families with children to have more money to raise their children. We know that those things are going to make Canadian families better off today, and we're making investments in tomorrow so we can have a more productive and efficient economy for our children and our grandchildren.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, our priority is to be here to fight for hardworking Canadians. But they're clearly not a priority for this Prime Minister. Thousands of Canadians were laid off this summer. Household debt is at an all-time high. And Canadians don't believe that this Prime Minister can manage the economy. Canadians are worried about their future, and jobs are not being created. So what is his answer?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the challenges facing middle-class Canadians are real. That is, in fact, why they elected us. They realized that making investments in the future is the answer, not austerity. So what we've said to Canadians is we are going to take what is the best balance sheet in G7 countries, and we're going to make investments in their future. We're going to make sure that we find a way to have the next generation of Canadians better off than the last one, and that's the commitment we make to the Canadians today.
Chef de l'Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has a romantic notion about peacekeeping that simply doesn't match up to reality. This is 2016, not 1956. Increasingly, there is no peace to keep. The conflicts in sub-Saharan Africa are dangerous. Even Romeo Dallaire agrees that a mission there will be deadly. Does the Prime Minister understand this is not a peacekeeping mission, but rather a dangerous deployment that will risk Canadian lives? And does he think it's worth it?
The Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, we fully understand the complexity of peace operations, but we can't be an island of stability in an ocean of turmoil. Canada needs to do its part. And this is why I actually took retired General Romeo Dallaire with me on my 5-country trip to Africa to learn about the complexities. We're taking a whole-of-government approach to this. We're going to take a thorough effort before we put all the facts together and before we have a thorough debate on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the most difficult and important decision that any government can make is to deploy our Canadian forces into a war zone. Canadians must be able to trust that these decisions are made in our national interest, not the political interests of the Liberal Party. Sending our troops on a dangerous African mission appears to be about a purely political goal, getting a UN Security Council seat. But our troops are not pawns on a political chessboard. Why has the Prime Minister decided that this is the best way to win over his friends at the UN?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians rejected this type of pessimism in the last federal election. They voted for a party that promised to re-engage Canada in the world and a government that would be committed to actively contributing to greater security and peace in the world. Over the last 10 months, under the leadership of our Prime Minister and our government, we have supported the United Nations climate change, gender equality, and welcoming Syrian refugees in fighting disease and investing in peace support operations as well. This will be a whole-of-government effort, Mr. Speaker.
Full Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this is what the Prime Minister said about deploying troops to fight ISIL. Canadians expect the highest standard of openness from a leader who wants to send our troops to war. He called for a debate and a vote in the House of Commons, and that is what the previous government did. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister put his own words in practice by allowing for a debate and a vote here in the House? The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to actively contributing to our greater security and peace in the world, and we welcome a healthy debate, both in the House and with Canadians. During my consultations with the Defence Policy Review, we heard from Canadians, and peace operations was amongst at the top there. And keep in mind, the peace operations is just one small part. We have to look at conflict mediation, conflict prevention, and construction as well. And I have to state over and over again, this will be a whole-of-government effort, not just strictly peace operations.
Député d'Outremont.
Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, a leopard can't change its spots. When it comes to healthcare, the Liberals promised real change. Instead, we see today a return to their old favorite strategy, picking a fight with Quebec. Instead of attacking Quebec over something Quebec has already resolved, why doesn't the government solve the underlying problem by reversing the $36 billion in cuts by Stephen Harper?
The Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I have have had the great pleasure of working collaboratively with my colleagues in the provinces and territories since the time that I became Minister of Health. I have enjoyed many good conversations with my colleagues across the country. We have talked about our shared priorities and where we want to invest in health. There will be no cuts to health. We will continue to increase the Canada Health Transfer as previously discussed, and we will discuss other areas where there can be investments in areas that are important to Canadians.
Outremont.
Speaker, the minister has just confirmed that they are in fact continuing with the cuts imposed by Stephen Harper. Those reductions are going to hurt health services in all of those provinces and territories she just referred to. But Canadians were promised a change from the Conservative government's approach on health care. But now the Liberals are admitting that they're going to continue with those cuts. Can the minister explain to us how following the Conservative cuts in health care somehow constitutes real change in Canada?
Here, here.
The Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to talk about why, in fact, our approach to health care does constitute real change. We are investing. The Canada Health Transfer this year is the largest ever, to the tune of $36.1 billion. It will go up accordingly next year, according to plan. But what Canadians want is investment in innovation. Canadians know that while our healthcare system is something we are proud of, in fact, it could be better. And we are going to talk with our colleagues in the provinces and territories and talk about where those investments should be made and what Canadians can expect.
Bravo. When she says it's going according to plan, what she's actually saying is it's going according to the Conservative plan, Mr. Speaker. And as the Prime Minister talks to our allies today about the role of this country on the world stage, we're again reminded that actions speak louder than words. Despite the words about peace, just last month in Geneva, this government actually voted against nuclear disarmament. Real leadership means acting in the interest of peace, not just talking about it. Will the Liberal government reverse this shameful position and vote in favour of nuclear disarmament at the UN General Assembly next week?
Hear, hear. The Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, the most effective way to reach a nuclear-free world is a pragmatic, step-by-step approach. And to do this, and we need to be a strategy where, one, we're engagement. We will be at the table in Geneva and again in Japan and at the G7 and with our G7 allies, working together for the elimination of nuclear weapons, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to be present with our allies. Thank you.
Honourable member for Outremont.
Yes, that one of those steps should be actually voting against nuclear disarmament.
I was in Paris with the Prime Minister when he promised to take action on the critical issue of climate change, Mr. Speaker. There is no duty more important for future generations. Now we learn that instead of keeping its word, the Liberal government is about to ratify the Paris Agreement with the same targets and same deadlines as under Stephen Harper. Does the minister think that is change? Serving up the Conservatives' plan with a smile? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are willing to take action on climate change. I spent the summer speaking with my counterparts all across the country.
When you put out targets and you don't have a plan to meet them, and your emissions go up, and we've been very transparent about how the emissions have gone up, it's hard to meet them. But what Canadians expect is real action, and we are going to deliver real action with the provinces and territories, with Indigenous leaders, with business, with youth, with all Canadians, because that is what we are committed to doing.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, there was a major surplus that turned into a deficit under this government over the past fiscal year. With spending, there's no plan to balance the books in the future. The plan is basically that the grandchildren will pay for the children's debt. When are we going to have balanced books again? The Honourable Finance Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, we know that it's tough for the middle class these days in Canada. We know that investments need to be made now. We're starting with programs that will help the middle class now, like tax reductions, like the Canada Child Benefit, which will help 9 out of 10 families. But for the future, the important thing is to invest in growth. That's precisely what we're going to do. Now, a member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, another very important thing for the economy is that 400,000 jobs depend on softwood lumber. In the past, there was a situation where people had been waiting for 10 years for a solution. We found that solution. And since then, our companies have been able to export relatively easily to the U.S. We had a good agreement with the U.S., but the minister has decided to go to court instead. What a great idea, to litigate rather than negotiate a solution. Why is it that they're unable to bargain with the Americans, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister for International Trade, Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, this is a priority for us. The opposition knows it. We've committed to the negotiations. There's been unprecedented cooperation with industry, the provinces and territories. The minister has met with her American counterpart last week. We're looking for a good deal for Canada, but not any old deal.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have now confirmed that they are planning to impose a made-in-Ottawa carbon tax on all Canadians, no matter where they live and no matter if their province already has a carbon tax. British Columbia already has a carbon tax, but the Liberals in Ottawa are indicating that it might not be high enough to kill jobs, and it might not take enough money out of the pockets of hard-working British Columbians. Why are the Liberals in Ottawa threatening to force the government of BC to raise taxes on British Columbians?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We understand that the environment and the economy go together. Right now, 80% of Canadians live in a jurisdiction where there's a price on carbon. BC and Alberta have a carbon tax. Ontario and Quebec have a cap-and-trade system. And we understand and we know that carbon pricing is the most efficient way to reduce emissions and to foster innovation. And I'm very proud that 25 Canadian companies have joined onto our Carbon Pricing Leadership Coalition, calling for a price on carbon, because they know it's the way forward to innovate and to grow our economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, the minister doesn't seem to understand that 110,000 energy workers have lost their jobs. Mr. Speaker, BC is home to a developing LNG sector where tens of thousands of jobs are riding on investment decisions of LNG companies. When Liberals in Ottawa threaten to increase carbon taxes on BC employers, they threaten billions of dollars of investment into the economy, money that will pay for hospitals, schools, and provide thousands of family-supporting jobs. Why are the Liberals so intent on threatening British Columbia families with their made-in-Ottawa job-killing carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member opposite might not understand that BC has a carbon tax, and it's BC's carbon tax, and it's revenue neutral. It's revenue neutral, so BC actually returns the revenues to their citizens. But the energy companies are actually with us. Let me quote from Suncor CEO Steve Williams. We think climate change is happening. We think a broad-based carbon price is the right answer. CEO of Dutch Shell, Total, and 4 other major energy companies. We firmly believe that carbon pricing will discourage high carbon options. We now need governments around the world to provide us with this framework. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Portage Lisgar.
Mr. Speaker, maybe that minister is listening to CEOs, but she needs to start listening to premiers of provinces like Saskatchewan and including the territories who have been clear. They don't want a carbon tax because they know that Canadians, particularly rural and northern Canadians, can't afford it. Why is this government ignoring the provinces and imposing a carbon tax that will hurt the economy, hurt Canadians, and do nothing for jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the party opposite, we understand that the environment and the economy go together. Since I was elected, I have spent the time crisscrossing the country, meeting with all provinces, all territories, meeting with labour leaders, meeting with Indigenous leaders, meeting with Canadians, meeting with business. Canadians expect us to act on climate change because we are the first generation to feel the impacts, and we're the only generation who can actually change things. We are going to move forward with a plan because we understand that's the right thing to do to tackle climate change and grow our economy.
Portage Lisgar.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that minister clearly hasn't been talking to the hundreds of thousands of Canadians in the energy sector whose jobs have been lost. She's not listening to the provinces who don't want a carbon tax. Mr. Speaker, a carbon tax will kill jobs, and it's an imposition of Ottawa on the provinces. Why are the Liberals ignoring not only what the premiers are saying, but what rural and remote Canadians are saying? They don't want a carbon tax. It's going to kill jobs. They need to listen to people outside of the city of Ottawa.
The Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've spent the last 8 months crisscrossing the country, speaking with Labour, speaking with business leaders, speaking with Indigenous Canadians, speaking with everyone who would like to actually move forward on climate change. We've had discussions. I met with my territorial counterparts. They are concerned about the impact of carbon pricing, and we're having a good discussion with them. Bottom line is, right now, 80% of Canadians live in a jurisdiction where, through the leadership of the province, because there was inaction by the Conservative government, there's a price on carbon. So we are going to move forward in a thoughtful way, working with provinces and territories.
The honourable member for Abitibi, James Bay, Nunavik, AU. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government was elected on a promise to build a new nation-to-nation relationship. So why is this government still discriminating against First Nations children? After the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal found this government guilty of discrimination, this government is still not complying with the tribunal's order. Simple question. How can the Prime Minister, as Minister for Youth, justify this systemic discrimination against Indigenous children in 2016? The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs. Mr. Speaker, Canada is determined to examine services to children and families on reserve, and to do so in partnership with the First Nations. We are cooperating with communities in the First Nations and key organizations, service providers on the front line, and other stakeholders to together restructure the system in order to reduce the number of children in difficulty and to have an approach that is truly child-based. The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Two compliance orders by the Human Rights Tribunal to end systemic racist discrimination against Indigenous children. That Minister of Health was asked to end the systemic denials of emergency orthodontic surgery that runs at denial rates of 99%. Instead, she's decided to spend more money fighting these families in court than the surgeries would cost. We're talking about a moral and legal obligation to children. So can she explain why she'd rather spend the money on lawyers than responding to emergency needs of Indigenous children who are being denied their rights?
As the member opposite is well aware, we do have a non-insured health benefits program that is available to First Nations and Inuit families. These features of care are provided on the basis of medically necessary needs, including, of course, orthodontic care. I'm pleased that the member continues to work with us to seek ways that the program can be improved, as all good programs can be, but we will find ways to make sure that the care is there for the people who need it.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Mindapore.
Intent on imposing job-killing carbon taxes on the provinces. Their message is, either you do this or we'll force you to. So much for sunny ways, Mr. Speaker. Now, carbon taxes raise the price of everything, from filling up your gas tank to buying groceries to heating your home, and they kill jobs. So why is this government so intent on raising the price of everything and killing jobs through their carbon tax?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 80% of Canadians live in a jurisdiction where there's a price on carbon. I'm very proud of the leadership of the Alberta government that's brought in a price on carbon, because they recognize it's the best way to reduce pollution and also to foster innovation. That's why we have energy companies that are saying, please put a price on carbon, because we will innovate, we will create good jobs, and we will position ourselves for the future.
The member for Calgary-Mindapore.
Sounds like the only people she's consulting in Alberta are NDP politicians who didn't even mention a carbon tax in their election campaign. We are going through the toughest recession we've had in decades, and the worst possible thing is to hike prices and impose new taxes on everything. Brad Wall understands that. He's opposed to this government's top-down, do it or else approach to federalism. So will this government stop killing jobs and making a bad situation worse in Alberta? Will they stop the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
I will continue talking with the provinces and territories, with business leaders, with Indigenous leaders, with Labour, including Labour groups in Alberta, because we know we need to tackle climate change and we need to grow our economy. I'm very surprised that the member opposite, who I thought would believe in free market economics, would understand that carbon pricing is a market mechanism that is the best way to reduce carbon pollution and innovate. But perhaps he doesn't believe in climate change, and that might be the problem.
The honourable member for Cypress Hills Grassland.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are declaring all-out war on the provinces who don't want to go along with their carbon tax schemes. They're not even willing to do their own work. Yesterday, we saw paid PMO officials attacking Brad Wall, the most popular premier in Canada. Is this the best the Liberals can do on climate change, using unelected staff to attack a premier for defending his province's interests?
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very proud that we're working with all provinces and territories to reduce emissions and also grow our economy. All of the premiers stepped up with the Prime Minister in the Vancouver Declaration, said they were committed to meeting our international obligations. So that is what we are doing. We're going to continue working with the provinces and territories so that we have a credible plan, so we reduce our emissions, so we grow our economy, and we make a better world for our kids.
The member for Cypress Hills Grassland.
Well, Mr. Speaker, they're threatening the provinces and Canadians with new climate taxes. The Liberals have been clear. If they don't get things their way, they're just going to slap on more taxes, including fuel taxes. Higher fuel taxes punish rural Canadians and agriculture more than anyone else. Mr. Speaker, this is the start of Canadians paying more for everything. Why are the Liberals so viciously targeting rural people and agriculture with their new climate taxation fixation?
The Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I haven't thought of a good rhyme yet, but I'll try. We are committed to taking action on climate change. We recognize that that is the thing we need to do. Take the example of BC. They have a carbon tax. It's revenue neutral. They give money back to the consumers. But what does it do? It's a market mechanism that reduces what we don't want. We don't want carbon pollution. We want less. So we innovate, businesses innovate, and we position ourselves to a cleaner future because we want to create good jobs and we want to grow the economy.
Honourable member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie.
Speaker, this morning we learned of allegations that implicate both CSIS and the RCMP in report of 3 Canadians being tortured in Syria between 2001 and 2004. And seemingly even the Canadian ambassador was involved. These are very serious allegations against 2 of our security agencies and the reputation of our country. How does the government explain these troubling allegations, and are they going to investigate?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the allegations to a very large extent have been examined by 2 very important commissions, Yakabuchi and O'Connor. Those commissions made important recommendations. Some of those recommendations have been implemented. One key one was not implemented by the previous government, and that is the need for a parliamentary mechanism to provide review and scrutiny to all of the security and police agencies and all of their activities in Canada. We have introduced legislation to do exactly that in Bill C-22, and we look forward to that legislation being passed expeditiously.
The honourable member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, several reports have revealed tremendous problems with Canada's arms export regime. We already know that Canadian arms exported to Saudi Arabia were used in Yemen, and now we learn that arms manufactured by Straight Group were sold to countries like Libya, Sudan, and that despite Canadian sanctions.
The Liberals have already refused our proposal to create a parliamentary committee on oversight of arms exports. Will they revisit their position and give parliamentarians a say in this matter?
Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are committed to strengthening Canada's export controls, something the former government failed to do. We will provide more rigor and transparency. We are acceding to the Arms Trade Treaty. Currently, we're consulting with NGOs and industry and look forward to input from our parliamentary colleagues in committee and in the House as we bring the legislation forward. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin. Mr. Speaker, there are millions of people suffering from arthritis in Canada, especially senior citizens. Given this, what are the measures being taken by this government and the Minister of Health to help these sufferers and to prevent any other people from suffering from arthritis? I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Arthritis is a disease that hits too many Canadians very hard. Those who suffer from it have diverse and difficult symptoms. Thanks to the Canadian Institute of Health Research, we continue to invest over $46 million to learn more on this chronic inflammation and to develop the best preventive and treatment approaches.
Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, when our troops are deployed on dangerous missions, Canadians deserve to know the details. The Prime Minister missed another opportunity to be open and transparent with Canadians. Rather than tabling his African mission in the House, the Prime Minister went to the UN instead. The Prime Minister is playing political games in hopes of getting a seat on the UN Security Council and is shamefully using our troops as pawns. Will the Prime Minister start respecting Parliament and bring this dangerous UN mission to the House for a full debate and a vote, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been transparent right from the beginning. In my mandate letter, it clearly states we will be involved with peace operations. When I went on my fact-finding mission, I tried to make all my observations known. And as we get more information, I look forward to having a healthy debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk-Interlake East.
What about the vote, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, this summer the Minister of National Defence admitted peacekeeping no longer exists. Yet in their speech from the throne, the Liberals promised, and I'll quote, to renew Canada's commitment to United Nations peacekeeping. But Distinguished General Romeo Dallaire has said that there will be more Canadian casualties on the sub-Saharan mission. Will the Prime Minister admit that he misled Canadians by promise to do peacekeeping when he knew that our troops will be placed in harm's way on the UN mission in Africa?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians and the world is proud of the great work that all our men and women in uniform have done on operations with the United Nations and NATO, all of the missions that they've done all over the world. And we can be very proud of the work that we'll do. But we can't put cart before the horse. We are doing our due diligence to get all the necessary information. And when we do, we will make sure that we present it to Canadians and to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Defence had to travel all the way to Africa to learn that traditional peacekeeping operations don't exist anymore. Casualties suffered by the peacekeepers should have been a clear indicator that these are dangerous missions. Romeo Dallaire says that the risks are great. Our soldiers will be constant targets. So will the government be open and transparent and hold a full debate and a vote here in Parliament instead of in the UN?
Mr. Speaker, I have no stranger to conflict, and one of the reasons I wanted to actually get on the ground, I like to get into the countries and find out for myself, and that's one of the reasons I took retired General Romeo Dallaire with me, and also Justice Madame Louise Arbour with me, to get a full perspective, to get the interpretation from their own minds while we're actually talking to the leadership of those countries, talking to the international organizations. But a lot of work that needs to be done. We have a whole of government effort we want to bring to the table, and plus we want to bring a whole of government from other countries, so making sure that we have a meaningful contribution to the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint Charles. Mr. Speaker, Parliament has a right to know in what kind of high-risk mission the government is engaging Canadians. Liberals are about to send our soldiers to dangerous areas, and they're calling them peacekeeping missions. But our soldiers will be a constant target of armed factions with one single goal: to kill foreigners on their territory, as recognized by Roméo Dallaire. Given this, will the government hold a debate and a vote on this matter in Parliament, yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, conflict in Africa are extremely complex. We need to make sure there's an appropriate mandate in place and making sure that contributing nations also fulfill those mandates. A lot of work that needs to be done. We need to make sure that all the efforts from the international organizations, the United Nations, and all the other agencies that are there are also contributing well. And when we have all the information, we will present it to Canadians and to this House for debate. Thank you.
For Edmonton, Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, have Canadians heard correctly that it's Canada who is now backtracking on its international climate promises? The Liberals criticized the Harper government on its climate targets as totally inadequate, and they were right. In their platform, the Liberals promised to, quote, establish national emission reduction targets. Then, in Paris, they committed to doing better than the previous government. Why is this government now breaking its promise to the world and to future generations of Canadians? Why is it backtracking?
Here.
Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is committed to working with the provinces and territories to meeting our international obligations. We are working very hard to understand challenges and opportunities in different provinces and territories, and we're going to come forward with a plan. But let's be clear about the Harper target. The Harper government had absolutely no plan to reach the target. They didn't care. They had a target out there with no actions. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to come with concrete actions that are going to tackle our emissions and grow our economy in a thoughtful way.
The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, travelers who transit through the Trudeau International Airport in Montreal are furious. The wait times required for Canadian customs is unacceptable. Since April 1st, those who transit through Montreal instead of Toronto are more likely to wait over an hour in front of unmanned customs desks. Mr. Speaker, will the Minister of Transport fix the problem, or will he commission another study? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recognize that the wait times at the airport are unacceptable. We recognize that these wait times are a problem for Montreal, so we must absolutely reduce these wait times. It's important to pass through security, obviously, but the wait times must be reduced. That is why I'm working closely with my colleague, the Minister of Public Safety, and we will find the solution to this problem. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals recently stated that their government plans to use TV ads to promote their electoral reform campaign. Now, given the Liberal Party's history with sponsorship of ad campaigns, there are a lot of questions, and Canadians deserve the answers. Liberals have alluded to the fact that they'll be working with third parties to create these ads. So, Mr. Speaker, who are these third parties? Are they taxpayer-funded, and what are their connections to the Liberal Party?
Comment to Secretary for Democratic Institutions.
There are no plans for television advertising. Certainly what we do want to do is to engage Canadians on a pan-Canadian basis, and I'm very proud that more than 140 members of Parliament on this side of the House have either had or will have in the very short while town halls. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have had 3. I'm having that many on Sunday, Mr. Speaker. So if we're going to purport to listen to Canadians, let's actually engage them.
For Banff Airdrie.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's pretty clear the Liberals already have an outcome in mind, and it's one that will only benefit Liberal politicians. First, the Liberals charged entry into their town halls, and then the Justice Minister turned away over 30 people from her meeting, and now the Liberals are making shady deals with third parties to make Sunny Ways electoral ads, despite the claims we're hearing today. Mr. Speaker, it's become abundantly clear. This isn't about Canadians. It's about Liberal politicians and their friends. Why are the Liberals rewarding their friends with advertising dollars instead of giving Canadians a say in a referendum?
Secretary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Conservative critic for democratic reform has himself said that first past the post is not the best system. The minister has gone to Saanich Gulf Islands, has gone to Skeena-Bulkley Valley, has worked with members from all the different parties, and I would say to the Conservatives that it's the time to put forward ideas, to work with us, to improve our democracy, to make sure that every vote is counted, and to participate in this process.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the election is one of the most important institutions in a democratic society, and we must not toy with it. That is why we are in favor of a referendum. Can the government assure us that their cronies who filled their pockets after the sponsorship scandal will not be returning to ensure that this electoral reform debate is carried out fairly? Mr. Speaker, it is genuinely important that we improve our electoral system. This is a historic opportunity, and not just for our party, but for the House of Commons in general. And I would like to encourage the Conservative Party to participate with the other parties, with the Liberal parties, by taking joint action across the country to improve our electoral system.
Mr. Speaker, access to affordable housing is a problem for many Canadians. In Scarborough Centre, 1 in 3 people are spending 30% or more of their income on housing compared to the national average of 1 in 5. The lack of affordable housing is especially challenging for seniors trying to make ends meet on fixed incomes. Could the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development tell us what the government is doing to encourage the building of more affordable housing, especially for seniors?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I start thank for the member for Scarborough Centre for her hard work on behalf of all seniors. This government believes that all Canadians need and deserve housing that is safe, affordable and secure. To give Canadians greater access to affordable housing, last year's budget invested a record $2.3 billion in assisting affordable housing, in particular the needs of seniors. This funding, Mr. Speaker, is expected to benefit more than 5,000 seniors across Canada. May I also take this opportunity to welcome our new cohort of pagers and look forward to working with them over the next few months.
For Niagara Falls.
Mr. Speaker, the imminent retirement of Supreme Court Justice Thomas Cromwell will leave a vacancy for Atlantic Canada. Now, the Justice Minister has said that the next Supreme Court Justice may not be from Atlantic Canada. Now, this is very surprising, Mr. Speaker, because it's a constitutional convention that Atlantic Canada is represented on the Supreme Court, and it's also the fair thing to do. I'd like to know, what is the Liberal problem with doing right for Atlantic Canada?
Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was pleased to introduce a new process for the appointment of Supreme Court justices to make it open and transparent. And I was very pleased to be able to appoint a panel to review applications. I look forward to receiving those applications, 2 of which will be from Atlantic Canada. No decision has been made, but we are confident that we will appoint a diverse, functionally bilingual, high-caliber jurist to the Supreme Court of Canada, and I look forward to participating in that.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Mr. Speaker, Wayne Smith, Canada's chief statistician, resigned Friday and blasted this Liberal government for failing to protect the independence of StatsCan. The Liberals promised to restore StatsCan's independence, but Mr. Smith said, quote, "That independence has never been more compromised." So I asked the minister to resist the urge to simply blame the Harper Conservatives because Mr. Smith was referring to this Liberal government. So how does this Liberal government defend this breach of independence and this clearly broken promise?
Right. Comment to Secretary for Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, we would like to thank the former Chief Statistician Wayne Smith on his long 35 years of service to Canada and to Statistics Canada. We promised Canadians, Mr. Speaker, in the last election that we would reinstate the long-form census, and by golly, they responded in great numbers, in historic numbers, Mr. Speaker. That's a great testament to Mr. Smith's work. Our government remains committed to reinforcing the independence of Stats Canada. We are working on that, and we are making sure that that's an important part of the minister's mandate letter, Mr. Speaker, and that we are going to continue with that work.
Honourable member for Don Valley West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A number of my constituents in the riding of Don Valley West, particularly in the neighbourhood of Leaside, have raised strong concerns about the number and timing of airplanes flying over their homes and the noise that they generate. Could the Minister of Transport please update the House on what he is doing about these concerns?
Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member from Don Valley West and indeed his fellow colleagues from the GTA for raising this important issue. Certainly, mitigating noise is something that we try to do within the parameters of maintaining aviation safety. Recently, my staff met with some of the community groups that have raised the issue of noise, and I have passed that on to the CEO of NAV Canada. I'm glad to say that the CEO of NAV Canada has hired a third party which is looking into the matter, and I will report when the results are obtained. Thank you.
For Calgary Nose Hill, order.
Mr. Speaker, the decision to send Canadian men and women in our armed forces into harm's way is one of the most serious decisions that parliamentarians will ever undertake. That's why our government always believed in taking it to debate in the House of Commons. Given that the Minister of Defence formerly served for our country, and it seems like he won't allow this to come to a vote, can he explain both to our men and women in uniform and to Canadians as to why they won't put this to a vote in the House of Commons?
Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated earlier, for one, I think we can be proud of our men and women who have served all over the world in previous missions and even now. But a lot of work that needs to be done for peace operations. One, we are going to be going in with his eyes wide open, making sure that we have all the necessary information, allow the military to do their work, allow my Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of International Development, to making sure that we have all the right information. We need to be able to get a full analysis. Once we have better information, we will be presenting this to Canadians as we have done moving forward. A lot of work that needs to be done, and I look forward to the healthy debate once we have all the necessary information. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rivière du Nord.
Member for Rivière du Nord. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. No one likes user fees when it comes to the health system, but in order to eliminate them, the Minister of Health is now ready to take Quebecers hostage by cutting $160 million from the healthcare transfers. Now, she might claim that she is defending the health system, but she is attacking Quebec patients. Enough is enough, Mr. Speaker. Will the Minister reinstate unconditionally and immediately the budget cuts that she is going to make to the detriment of Quebecers? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government is working hard with the provinces and territories to strengthen our public health system, to ensure that Canadians have access to the health care they need, regardless of their ability to pay. The government has renewed its commitment by reestablishing federal leadership in the health system and putting forward a national vision that defends the principles of the Canadian public health care system, including universality and accessibility, and that's what we're going to do. The Honourable Member. I don't have another question. The Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, as we have seen recently, our Prime Minister went to a mosque, and the Bloc Québécois wants to know that if these people had been homosexuals or indigenous people or black people who were in the balcony instead of women, would it have been more or less acceptable for this government? And would the Prime Minister still have agreed to speak?
The Honourable Minister for the Status of Women.
Mr. Speaker, this government is committed to gender equality in all areas of Canadian life, but we're also committed to respecting the diversity of Canadian communities. We will visit with people in ways that are appropriate for their communities, whether it is a military community, whether it is a religious community, whether it is Indigenous community. I'm very proud of a government that understands that in order to develop relationships, you must be respectful of the community that you're in.
Honourable Member, Mr. Speaker, for us in Quebec, equality between men and women is fundamental, and it's a deal breaker. And we can tell that that is not the case for this government. Will the Minister of Status of Women, does she find it acceptable that her Prime Minister speak in a mosque that practices sexual segregation? Is that the Liberals' Canada, Mr. Speaker?
The status of women.
Mr. Speaker, a fundamental component of feminism is supporting women's right to choose. And when we respect communities and their faith communities, and we meet them in a place where they have determined the rules of engagement, that is exactly what we believe in when we support feminism in this country. Thank you very much.
Order. This will conclude question period for today. Order. A Lord. A Lord. I believe the Honourable Government House Leader is rising on a point of order. I encourage the members to take their discussions outside. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to inform the House that Thursday, September 22nd shall be an allotted day.
Tabling of documents. The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 32-2, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government response to the PACP report, Chapter 3, Mental Health Services for Veterans of the Fall 2014 report of the OAG. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs and pursuant to Standing Order 32-2, I have the honour to table in both official languages the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement.